Hello children, how are you? I hope you all are hale and hearty. Well, I'm Satinder Kaur and today I'll be taking up a history lesson for class 7 and the name of the lesson is New Kings and Kingdoms. Children, in class 6 you had read about some great kings and their empires like the Mauryas and the Guptas. In today's lesson too, we will talk about some new kings who ruled in this subcontinent between 7th and 12th centuries. So let's start the lesson and find out who those kings were and how they ruled. Children, let's look at this map. It shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between 7th and 12th centuries. Children, like today we talk about India as a country. Earlier, it was not a country. Rather, it was a part of the subcontinent which comprised Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Myanmar, and some areas of Tibet. Let's first look at the northern part of the subcontinent. There were Chahamanas, who later came to be called Chauhans. Prithviraj Chauhan was a famous ruler of this dynasty. Then in the central part, there were Gurjar Pratihars. The eastern part was ruled by Palas, while the Rashtrakutas ruled in the Deccan. They also tried to gain control over central and northern part of the subcontinent. The southeastern part of the subcontinent was ruled by Chalukyas, while the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas ruled the southern part of the subcontinent. Children, if you remember the kings that we read about last year, they established large empires. They ran the administration of the empire all by themselves. This means that they took all the decisions to run the empire on their own. But if you look at this map carefully, the kingdoms established between 7th and 12th centuries were not that big. These kings ruled over small areas, and this was so because they were big landlords or warrior chiefs initially. They were the subordinates of kings and were known as Samantas. Kings often gave them land to administer, and these Samants were expected to bring gifts for their kings or overlords. They were also expected to be present at their courts and provide them with military support. Slowly and gradually, these Samantas became powerful and rich, and they declared themselves to be Mahasamantas or Mahamandaleshwaras, means the great lord of a region. Sometimes they also became independent from their overlords. For instance, Rashtrakutas were the subordinates of the Chalukyas of Karnataka. In the mid-8th century, a Rashtrakuta chief, Danti Durga, overthrew his overlord and became king himself. Children, in class 6, you read about the Varna system, according to which only a Kshatriya could become a king, and Danti Durga was not a Kshatriya. Children, he performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha with the help of Brahmanas. Hiranyagarbha literally means the golden womb. Children, it was a kind of religious ceremony. It was believed that those who performed this ritual would become Kshatriya even though they were not Kshatriya by birth. There were other instances as well where men from powerful and influential families used their military skills to establish their kingdoms, like the Kadamba Mayur Sharman and the Gurjar Pratihara Harichandra. They both were Brahmins who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms and established their kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. Many of these new kings adopted high-sounding titles such as Maharaja Dhiraja means great king or overlord of kings. Tribhuvan Chakravartin means lord of the three worlds, and so on. Children, according to Hindu mythology, the whole universe is divided into three worlds, and these three worlds are earth, heaven and the underworld, that is the world under the earth. Now, by taking these titles, the kings of this period wanted to show that they were all powerful, but in reality they shared their power with their samantas as well as with the associations of brahmanas, traders and peasants, so that they could run their kingdoms efficiently. Children, to run the administration, these kings needed resources, and the resources were obtained from these people only. Peasants, cattle keeper, artisans were often persuaded or forced to give part of what they produced. Sometimes this share was claimed as rent because the king asserted that he owned the land. Traders were also asked to pay a part of their income. Children, the inscriptions of the Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu tell us about more than 400 taxes that were collected from people. The most common tax in the kingdom was Vetti, which was taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor. Then there was another tax called Kadamai or land tax. There were other taxes like taxes on thatching the house, the use of a ladder to climb palm trees, a tax on getting family property, and so on. Children, you all know that we also pay a number of taxes, and in return the government provides us various facilities like roads, street lights, parks, etc. The only difference is that we pay taxes in cash, and earlier they were paid in form of grains, animals and services. Now you have to consult your parents and make a list of the taxes that we pay these days. I'm sure you will be able to do that. The resources thus collected from various categories of people were used to finance the king's establishment. Not only that, the kings also used these resources for the construction of temples and forts. They were also used to fight wars in order to acquire more wealth and land. Now the question arises, how did the king collect these taxes? So the answer is that there were special functionaries to do this, who were generally recruited or appointed from influential families. And these positions were hereditary, means if a person is appointed for the task, then after him his son will do it, and after him his son will continue to do it. The same system was adopted in the army as well, and in many cases the close relatives of the king were appointed to these positions. Children, now we will talk about Prashastis. Prashastis contain details that may not be literally true, but they tell us how rulers wanted to project themselves. For instance, Some kings wanted to project themselves as victorious warriors. Some wanted to show that they were generous. In one of the Prashastis found in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, Pratihara king Nagbhatta is described as a powerful and brave king who defeated a number of kings. These Prashastis were composed by learned Brahmins who helped the king in the administration. Kings often rewarded these Brahmins by giving them land. These land grants were recorded on copper plates and were given to those who received the land. Do you know, children, why were these land grants recorded on copper plates? This was done so that these records did not get destroyed with time. Children, look at this picture carefully. This is a set of copper plates recording a grant of land made by a ruler in the 9th century. It is written partly in Sanskrit and partly in Tamil. The ring holding the plates together is secured with the royal seal. This was done to indicate that this was an authentic or legal document. Children, those who received the land grants did not get only the land. They also got fruit-bearing trees, wells, villages, canals, ditches, rivers, tanks, granaries, fish ponds, beehives, and lakes that were there on the land. The people who were granted the land could collect taxes from that land. They could also build large rooms with upper stories, plant trees, and do many other things on that land. In short, they got all rights over the land. I hope you all have understood what land grants were. Now let's move further and talk about an unusual Sanskrit work, Raj Tarangini. It was composed by an author named Kalhan and contained the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. Children, you must be wondering in what sense it was an unusual work. So children, just now we talked about Prashastis that were common in this period, and these were written by Brahmins who worked for the kings. So they only praised the kings in these Prashastis, whereas in Raj Tarangini we do not find only praise and positive things about the kings of Kashmir, because the author used a variety of sources like inscriptions, documents, eyewitness accounts, and earlier history to write this account. And that's why he often criticized the rulers and their policies. Children, you may have noticed that the ruling dynasties of that period ruled over a specific region, but they tried to gain control over other rich territories as well. For instance, Kannauj in Ganga Valley was one such city for which rulers of 3 dynasties, Gurjara Pratihara, Rashtrakutas, and Pala dynasties fought for centuries. This was so because Kannauj was located on the Ganga trade route and was strategically and commercially very important. Also, it was once the capital of Harshvardhana's empire. And since there were 3 parties in this long-drawn conflict, historians often describe it as the tripartite struggle. Children, these rulers not only fought wars to increase their influence, they also showed their power by building large temples, and this was the reason why temples were attacked and their wealth was looted during wars. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni of Afghanistan was best known for attacking temples. He ruled from 997 to 1030 AD and extended his control over parts of Central Asia, Iran, and the northwestern part of the subcontinent. He raided the subcontinent almost every year, and his targets were rich temples. He attacked famous Somnath temple in Gujarat, looted its wealth, and used it to create his splendid capital at Ghazni. But Sultan Mahmud was also interested in finding out more about the people he conquered. So, he appointed a scholar named Al-Biruni to write an account of the subcontinent. Al-Biruni wrote a book named Kitab al-Hind in Arabic language, which is an important source of history of that period. Children, Mahmud Ghazni was not the only ruler who fought wars. There were other kings too, like Chauhans, who attempted to expand their control to the west and the east, where they were opposed by the Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gehadwalas of western Uttar Pradesh. The best-known Chauhan ruler, Prithviraj Chauhan, defeated an Afghan ruler, Muhammad Ghori, in 1191 AD but lost to him the very next year in 1192 AD. So children, this was all about the kings who established their kingdoms between 7th and 12th centuries. I hope you all understood it well. Now it's time to answer a few questions. So let's start. First, we have the names of some dynasties. You have to match these dynasties with their regions. First, we have Gurjar Pratihars, who ruled over Rajasthan. Then we have Rashtrakutas, who ruled over the western Deccan. Next, we have Palas, who ruled over Bengal. And last, we have Cholas, who were there in Tamil Nadu. Now, let's move further and answer a few questions. Each question has 3 options. You have to choose the correct option. Are you ready? The first question is, Rashtrakutas of the Deccan were the subordinates of, and the options are Chalukyas of Karnataka, Cholas of Tamil Nadu, or Cheras of Kerala. And the right answer is Chalukyas of Karnataka. The next question is, who wrote Raj Tarangini? And the options are Al-Biruni, Kalhan, or King Harichandra. And the right answer is Kalhan. Let's move on to the next one. Who performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha? And the options are Danti Durga, Mayur Sharman, or Harichandra. And the answer is Danti Durga. Now the next question. Which 3 rulers fought for the control over Kannauj? And the options are Gurjar Pratihars and Cholas, Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas, or Gurjar Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas. And the right answer is Gurjar Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas. Now the next question. Who was asked by Sultan Mahmud Ghazni to write about the people of this subcontinent? And the options are Harichandra, Al-Biruni, or Muhammad Ghori. And the answer is right, Al-Biruni. Now the 6th question. Kitab al-Hind was written in? And the options are Hindi, Sanskrit or Arabic. And the answer is yes, Arabic. With this, we come to the end of today's video. I hope you liked it and got to know a great deal about the kings who ruled in this subcontinent between 7th and 12th centuries. That's all for now. I'll be back soon with some more interesting videos. Till then, keep learning, keep smiling.